It was a calm afternoon, the sun barely peeking through the clouds as Clint Eastwood boarded a private jet in Los Angeles. He was on his way to a meeting for his next film, but what he didn't know was that this flight would change the course of his life and history forever. The plane, a sleek private jet, was cruising at 35,000 feet when suddenly a loud bang echoed throughout the cabin. Clint, ever alert, instinctively knew something was wrong. The flight attendants froze in fear, and the passengers murmured in confusion. Within seconds, the plane began to dip, veering to one side as alarms blared. Clint, a man accustomed to high-stakes situations both on and off screen, immediately assessed the scene. The pilot's voice came over the intercom, shaky and tense. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've lost engine power. I'm attempting an emergency landing. Please remain calm." But the turbulence was growing worse by the second. The plane was plummeting faster than anyone could have anticipated, and the panic in the cabin was palpable. Clint knew that this wasn't just any emergency. It was life or death. As the situation rapidly worsened, he acted without hesitation. Clint stood up and made his way toward the cockpit, calmly brushing past the startled passengers. He had been in tight spots before, both on screen and in his personal life. But this was unlike anything he had ever experienced. Inside the cockpit, the pilot was struggling to maintain control of the plane, sweat trickling down his face. "We've lost power in both engines. I don't know if we'll make it," the pilot said, his voice tinged with fear. Clint didn't waste a second. "Let me take over," he said. The pilot looked up in disbelief. Clint Eastwood? Wasn't he just an actor? But what many didn't know was that Clint had extensive training in aviation. He had piloted planes in the past and had the necessary skills to handle such an emergency. With no time to explain further, Clint grabbed the controls. The plane was barely holding on, and every second counted. The sound of the engines sputtering and the cabin shaking only added to the urgency. Clint's calmness under pressure was remarkable. "We're going to get through this," he said to the pilot, his voice steady. It was clear that Clint wasn't just a Hollywood hero. He was about to prove he was a real one. The next few minutes felt like an eternity. Clint expertly maneuvered the jet, trying to regain control while the plane continued its descent. His mind raced, calculating every move with precision. It was like a scene from one of his movies, but this wasn't scripted. This was real. Clint's hands gripped the controls, his fingers steady, his focus unbreakable. The plane was now heading for a small airport, and Clint knew it was their only chance for survival. The ground was fast approaching, and the landing strip seemed impossibly close. With expert precision, Clint lined up the plane, carefully adjusting the descent. The passengers in the back had no idea what was happening, but the crew knew. They were witnessing a true hero in action. The aircraft slammed onto the runway, bouncing once, twice, and then skidding to a halt. The sound of screeching metal filled the air, but the plane was safely on the ground. Clint took a deep breath, his hands still on the controls before looking up at the shaken pilot. "We made it," Clint said simply. The pilot, still in shock, could barely comprehend what had just happened. They had survived. The emergency. Responders rushed to the plane, and Clint stepped out into the daylight, the weight of what had just occurred settling in. The passengers began to exit, their faces a mixture of disbelief and gratitude. News outlets began to swarm the scene, capturing the moment. But Clint wasn't interested in the media attention. He had just saved everyone on board. But for Clint, it wasn't about the glory. It was about the lives he had just protected. It wasn't until later that the true magnitude of his actions became clear. Investigations revealed that the plane's engines had failed due to a technical malfunction that had never been seen before. Had Clint not taken control, the plane would have crashed into a densely populated area, causing a massive tragedy. The heroism Clint displayed that day was not just a moment of survival. It was a game changer. His decision to act had not only saved everyone on the plane, but it had also prevented a catastrophe that could have altered history forever. In the aftermath, Clint was hailed as a hero. The media couldn't get enough of the story, and soon, It was all over the news. People from all over the world began sending messages of thanks and admiration. But Clint, true to his character, remained humble. "I was just doing what anyone would have done in that situation," he said in an interview. "I didn't think, I just acted." His words were simple, but they were also a reflection of his character. Clint Eastwood had spent decades portraying heroes on screen, but this was real life. This was Clint, the man who didn't hesitate when lives were on the line. And while the world was busy celebrating his heroism, Clint was already moving on, focusing on what mattered most: the lives he had saved. But the ripple effect of that fateful day didn't end there. Clint's actions inspired countless others to step up in moments of crisis. It was a reminder that heroism doesn't always come with a cape or applause. Sometimes, it's just about acting when others can't.